Sung Jin Woo looked coldly at him as several dagger blades appeared beside him, stabbing into the fleeing Ice Emperor. The Ice Emperor cried out in pain, shocked that he was injured by a mere kid, becoming a shield no less. He slipped through a gate, laughing coldly. "Well done, Shadow Monarch," he taunted. "We'll meet again on your doomsday. Consider that dying man a gift from me." Sung Jin Woo cursed inwardly, then quickly turned to look at the guild master. The injury was too severe, and the red potion was no longer effective. He called out loudly for Burr, who promptly flew out from home to Sung Jin Woo's side. Sung Jin Woo instructed Burr to use every means to save the guild master, but even Burr's healing skills were futile against such a grave wound. Sung Jin Woo took a small amount of remaining holy water, wanting to see what would happen. However, the guild master raised his hand to stop him. He prevented Sung Jin Woo, expressing gratitude for his presence, but insisting that there was no need to attempt to save him. He stated that his power was too great and no one could rescue him. Despite this, he expressed happiness at being able to touch the will of great individuals before his death, understanding their plans. He emphasized that their enemies must face consequences and remarked on Sung Jin Woo's fortunate circumstance. Sung Jin Woo's power indeed had the potential to prevent disasters, and the guild master understood this well. He recognized that their decision to enter the dungeon wasn't for their own sake, but to protect humanity. He told Sung Jin Woo that one day he would have to make a decision about Ra, urging him to stand on the side of humanity when that time came. Despite his physical limitations preventing him from fighting alongside Sung Jin Woo, he expressed no regret. He felt fortunate to pass on the torch to a young man like Sung Jin Woo and thanked him sincerely. As the guild master finished speaking, he released Sung Jin Woo's hand, and it slipped from Sung Jin Woo's grasp, falling to the ground with a soft thud. At the same time, the seal around them shattered, revealing the outside world. Raindrops fell on the leaves, adding to the downpour already underway. The guild master's body vanished into thin air, signaling a significant shift in the world's events. In the aftermath, top-ranked hunters were being systematically targeted and assassinated by the sovereigns, plunging the world into chaos. Headlines were filled with reports of their deaths, leaving the world in a state of panic. Even those who were usually protected by hunters were now vulnerable, raising questions about who would protect the protectors. The deaths of these elite hunters were a higher-level catastrophe, spreading terror throughout the world. As Sung Jin Woo and others stood in the rain, bidding farewell to the guild master, the enormity of the situation weighed heavily on them. The guild master's words echoed in Sung Jin Woo's mind, reminding him of the responsibility he now carried. The rain continued to fall relentlessly, mirroring the somber mood that had settled over them. Sung Jin Woo stood in the rain with everyone else, seeing off the chairman. Just a few days without seeing the department head, Eugene Chul, aged 10 years in appearance, his face showing signs of grief. The chairman's death saddened him deeply. Before the accident, the chairman had urgently called him back, hoping for news from Hawaii, but he arrived too late, missing the chance to see the chairman one last time. Nevertheless, he thanked Sung Jin Woo for being by the chairman's side in those final moments. In Sung Jin Woo's heart, anger brewed. Despite dealing with the formidable Chochun Emperor, his fury still lingered. He instructed the department head to summon the journalists for an immediate press conference. Upon hearing that Sung Jin Woo himself had called for it, the reporters flooded the meeting room. In a short time, Sung Jin Woo stood at the podium, addressing the journalists and sharing information with the world. He revealed that a highly intelligent group of monsters was targeting top-ranked hunters, stronger than any hunter before. They were willing to do anything to achieve their goals, creating dimensional barriers to isolate their victims magically, preventing outside assistance. Therefore, he advised those fearing becoming targets to stay with teammates who could protect them in the same space. If unable to find such teammates, he urged them to contact him through the Korean Hunter Association in the dark caves. Meanwhile, the emperors gathered once again. Kochun Emperor addressed everyone, stating that the darkness had betrayed them, and they had fallen. Another emperor, astonishingly powerful, whose strength no human could contain, had emerged. This circumstance, he explained, meant even the Dragon Emperor couldn't stay on Earth, just as Kochun had faced off against the Shadow Emperor. It was certain that was the might of this new emperor. Sung Jin Woo, as the vessel, had begun to control his power. Compared to the Shard of Light, he now posed the greatest threat. The emperors issued a collective call for cooperation to eliminate the Shadow Emperor. However, there was a hint of fear among the 9 kings. The Shadow Emperor was among the strongest. He proposed waiting until the Dragon Emperor's cancellation was calculated. This angered Kochun Emperor, who demanded to know when they would wait for the Dragon Emperor. All were kings now, and the Shadow Emperor was merely yet to fully awaken. This, he argued, was the best time to eliminate him. He pleaded for everyone's help, offering to take care of sending Sung Jin Woo into the abyss. However, the others were hesitant, fearing the fate of Biden. They left the meeting through the teleportation gate, leaving one silently cursing the cowardly group, then questioning Kochun Emperor. Kochun Emperor retrieved a poisonous dagger he had previously used to injure himself, detecting the poison on it. The former Shadow Emperor would not engage in such futile actions. At the mention of the poison, a queen chuckled, remarking that nothing could be certain with poison. She agreed with Kochun Emperor's assessment that if the Shadow Emperor truly controlled the vessel, he wouldn't behave so childishly. Thus, there were now 2 emperors participating in the campaign to eliminate the Shadow Emperor. After Sung Jin Woo's press conference, there was a peculiar change in human behavior. Instead of going alone, people began to move in groups. Nonetheless, no one knew who the disaster would strike, leading to a sense of increased security among many. Sung Jin Woo stood atop the skyscraper, emanating his aura of darkness. He tried to locate a hiding place of the emperors, but couldn't sense any trace of their presence. In his battle with Kochun Emperor, he also realized that the emperor had no shadow. Perhaps they were all in an invisible form, as the giant king had once mentioned. Invisibility prevented them from becoming pawns in the fight. From another perspective, invisibility was also an excellent way to conceal oneself. Nevertheless, Sung Jin Woo, the most powerful hunter in the country, believed that all prey would eventually reveal themselves in his net. With the elderly chairman unable to withstand Kochun Emperor's onslaught, one of his adversaries, the position of chairman of the association remained vacant. The state couldn't afford to be without a leader for a single day, so the high-ranking hunters convened to discuss. According to the usual process, this position belonged to an awakened hunter of S-rank, as they had the greatest influence. However, there were no S-rank hunters left besides the chairman. Bringing an outsider into this position raised fears of abuse of power. The chairman represented the supreme authority of the country, and after much deliberation, Deputy Chairman introduced Department Head Yujin Chul, an A-rank hunter, for the role. This decision astonished Yujin Chul, considering his age, qualifications, and rank were inferior to most others in the room. Many felt they were not deserving, but the Deputy Chairman disagreed. Despite his lower rank, Yujin Chul was the closest confidant of the late chairman, maintaining good relations with major hunter groups. Recently, he had also become close to Sung Jin Woo, a feat no one else in the association could accomplish. His election as chairman went unopposed, dominating the headlines the next day, albeit briefly, before being overshadowed by more pressing news. Surrounded by reporters at the association headquarters, Guyan couldn't believe the arrival of such an important guest. Yujin Woo was sweating profusely. The strongest hunter in America, Thomas, paid Sung Jin Woo a visit at his office. It was hard to believe that Thomas, with his imposing demeanor, was kept waiting alongside the world's top hunter, Renard. The most pressing issue, however, was that both hunters had been waiting for Sung Jin Woo for 2 hours, with no response to messages or calls. Thieu Jia was anxious, and Deputy Renard was losing patience. Although he had specifically visited Sung Jin Woo, he found himself waiting along with the world's top hunter, Pharmasander, unsure if he would even meet him. Thomas began to feel uneasy, asking where Sung Jin Woo was and when he would return. But even Yu Jin Ho was unsure of his brother's whereabouts. Finally, Sung Jin Woo returned, much to everyone's relief. Thieu Jia was overjoyed, shedding tears of happiness. Just as everyone was about to give up hope, Sung Jin Woo arrived slightly late. The police had been notified to aid in the search, but as he stepped through the door, Sung Jin Woo saw Thomas greeting him. Suddenly, everything made sense. It wasn't surprising that the association was swarming with reporters. It turned out that Thomas had come himself. Thieu Jia, looking pale, asked why he hadn't answered his phone. Sung Jin Woo explained that due to the recent appearance of many gates, he had to go destroy them to avoid trouble. He also had to promote his shadow soldiers to continue their usage. Thomas approached him, saying his hand had healed, and he had come specifically to invite Sung Jin Woo to dinner, bringing along a special gift. Sung Jin Woo was somewhat anticipating the surprise gift. A gift from the national hunter was bound to be valuable. Thomas suggested they move elsewhere, indicating that the item was somewhat dangerous and shouldn't be displayed here. Thieu Jia couldn't help but think of a bomb upon hearing this. As the two were about to leave, Renard couldn't resist approaching. Sung Jin Woo only then noticed another guest, a stranger, likely a hunter seeking assistance. Thomas, using his massive frame, stood in front, turning back to Sung Jin Woo with a fierce look, warning that what he was about to say was a secret, not something Sung Jin Woo could hear. Renard felt frustrated, but dared not confront Thomas due to his formidable power. He could only swallow his anger. The two arrived at a high-end restaurant, where Thomas instructed the waitstaff to bring a large trunk to the table. They placed the trunk down, and Thomas, stroking it, asked Sung Jin Woo if he could sense the power emanating from it. Sung Jin Woo indeed felt a familiar surge of dark energy. Thomas opened the trunk, confirming Sung Jin Woo's suspicion that it was related to Kami. Thomas praised Sung Jin Woo's ability to discern material just by looking at it. Sung Jin Woo was puzzled as the body of Kami was under the management of the Hunter Association. How did Thomas obtain it? Thomas explained that the government wanted to retrieve Kami's body from him, and he agreed because he had something more valuable. During his battle with Kami, Thomas had one of Kami's giant fangs pierced through him, which he had painstakingly removed to craft the largest tooth into a longsword. When materials were insufficient, he made 2 daggers instead. Now he had found someone worthy to wield them. As Sung Jin Woo held them in his hand, he felt Kami's intense rage, increasing his attack power by 1,500 points, an unbelievable boost. He thought demon daggers were powerful, but compared to these, they were like small demons facing a great demon. Every swing emitted a terrifying cutting force. Thomas warned him to be careful, as even with enhanced skills, he couldn't resist their power. The daggers seemed to possess their own soul, sensing the strength of their wielder, which exhilarated Sung Jin Woo. The strong gust of wind made the sweat drip down the sides of their faces. Thomas turned to Laura. "Do you still think my decision was wrong?" he asked. Laura shook her head, admitting that the sword truly belonged to the hero Sung Jin Woo. With delight, Sung Jin Woo accepted this coveted gift. At that moment, both Sung Jin Woo and Thomas sensed a powerful surge in magical energy. The entire street seemed tinted with purple. People hurriedly looked up at the sky, including Thomas, who, despite having vanquished many gates before, was witnessing such a massive gate for the first time, even larger than when Kami appeared. The world had changed beyond their comprehension. This gate was also the largest ever seen, validating the professor's hypothesis at the association conference that there would be physical reactions at 9 locations in the sky due to the concentration of magical energy. The capital city of Korea was just the beginning. There would be more countries experiencing this terrifying phenomenon. A senator asked the professor what measures they should take to prevent this catastrophe, leaving the professor puzzled. After a moment, he could only respond that all they could do was pray, as this unprecedented situation might not end in anything but tragedy. Sung Jin Woo rode Kaiser swiftly to the front of the dimensional gate, eager to see what lay beyond. However, it seemed impenetrable, like a wall with no passage. Even Sung Jin Woo's abilities proved useless against it. Nevertheless, he was determined not to let any monsters escape to harm the people, especially since his family and friends lived near this gate. At that moment, Guildmaster Eugene Chul summoned him with urgent news. He had contacted management agencies and hunters from other countries to assist in investigating. They discovered that after the appearance of the giant gate in Korea, no new dimensional gates had appeared worldwide. This was surely no coincidence. Chairman Eugene Chul had begun evacuating residents around the dimensional gate, knowing it was only a temporary measure, but it was the only thing he could do for now. After the meeting, Sung Jin Woo arrived at the Hunter Association's training room, ready to spar with Burr, the black ant who once struck fear into people's hearts, but now found himself powerless against Sung Jin Woo. Burr couldn't even lay a finger on him, getting easily pushed back whenever he attempted an attack. Sung Jin Woo instructed Burr to attack him with the intent to kill, but Burr hesitated, too intimidated to carry out the task. Sung Jin Woo reassured him, saying it was all right, he just wanted to break a sweat, and only Burr could provide that. Burr felt honored to be recognized by the king, calling Sung Jin Woo Your Majesty, which made Sung Jin Woo somewhat embarrassed. He told Burr to prepare himself, then unleashed a burst of purple aura, his body becoming even more powerful as he charged towards Sung Jin Woo. Activating his skill, Burr's strength and speed increased by a level, gradually keeping up with Sung Jin Woo's movements. Sung Jin Woo was amazed to see Burr's significant upgrade, but compared to Sung Jin Woo, Burr was still one level below. Sung Jin Woo explained to him that a general rank was only equivalent to a company commander in the military, and there was only one company commander in a company. When Ice Chris or Ree became generals, becoming monarchs was as easy as pie. If they didn't want to be usurped, they should train diligently. Burr was startled by Sung Jin Woo's words, realizing that even with his new position, he could still be overthrown. He shouted and lunged at Sung Jin Woo with lightning-fast speed, but Sung Jin Woo felt that things were not right. Even the strongest soldier like Burr was too weak compared to those monarchs. Burr attacked, but Sung Jin Woo effortlessly grabbed his claw and drove it deep into the ground. Then he circled around and delivered a powerful blow to Burr's abdomen, sending him crashing into the wall before collapsing in submission. Sung Jin Woo's immense and unpredictable strength left even a formidable opponent like Burr astonished. Sung Jin Woo advised Burr to refrain from watching period dramas and focus on leveling up. Hearing this, Burr felt disheartened. Sung Jin Woo declared the trial over and instructed Burr to clean up the training room. He then called Chairman Eugene Chul, sounding pleading. The chairman calmly responded, saying he had over 300 diligent ants who would quickly clean up the room at a hotel in the capital city of Korea. Laura suggested to Thomas that their work was done, but Thomas insisted on staying, captivated by the enormous dimensional gate. Laura reminded him of Sung Jin Woo's presence and the safety he provided. If even Sung Jin Woo was helpless against this potentially catastrophic gate, then no one could stop it. Therefore, they should seize this opportunity to witness the end or a new beginning of humanity. The people living near the dimensional gate panicked, craving escape. The streets were paralyzed with congestion, resembling scenes from an apocalypse. While everyone hurriedly ran for safety, Gina and her mother decided to stay behind. They knew Sung Jin Woo would protect them, just as her father had protected them before. Sung Jin Woo sat atop the skyscraper for 2 days straight as the magical power of the gate grew stronger by the minute. However, he still couldn't locate the positions of the monarchs. He wasn't sure how many sacrifices it would take to close the gate, but he was determined to do so because there were too many things to protect beneath it, and in the face of disaster, humans always wanted to be with someone important. Sung Jin Woo opened his contacts to find someone to accompany him. He saw Cha Hae-In's name appear first on his list of friends. Perhaps this was fate. At that moment, Cha Hae-In was practicing swordsmanship, her instructor observing her techniques filled with hesitation and concern. He wondered if she could overcome her psychological fear after the major incidents, or if she would be too emotionally scared to ever rise again. Suddenly, Cha Hae-In received a call, and after some hesitation, she exclaimed with excitement that she unexpectedly had plans and needed to leave early. Her instructor urged her to go, as if he had already guessed what was happening. At a large amusement park, everyone's attention turned towards a couple, both incredibly talented and beautiful, causing admiration from all who beheld them. Sung Jin Woo had assumed that the park would be deserted given the current situation, but he was surprised to find it still bustling with people. Cha Hae-In felt embarrassed, not expecting Sung Jin Woo to invite her to this place. Sung Jin Woo explained that he didn't particularly like this place, he just wanted to visit it once. Cha Hae-In wondered why he had invited her, and Sung Jin Woo replied with a smile, saying it was because she was his only friend. This statement puzzled Cha Hae-In. Sung Jin Woo reminded her of what she had said in front of that strange designer's house. Even though he had been lost in memories at the time, he had heard her words clearly. Cha Hae-In blushed, surprised that her hurried words had been heard. Suddenly, she realized there was no one else around. Upon closer inspection, Cha Hae-In noticed that Sung Jin Woo had used his shadow soldiers to create a barrier isolating the two of them. It was the first time she felt comfortable going out since becoming a hunter 2 years ago, especially with someone she loved. Just his scent alone made Cha Hae-In enamored. Sung Jin Woo suggested playing this game and that game, and Cha Hae-In liked them all, happy to play alongside the one she cherished. Her face radiated with happiness, feeling joy in everything they did. They rode the roller coaster, with everyone else screaming loudly, or they simply enjoyed the rush. The same was true when they played other games. Then they visited the haunted house, where even the ghosts felt more scared of the two of them. After finishing playing, Sung Jin Woo and Cha Hae-In went to eat. Sung Jin Woo asked if she had fun. Observing Cha Hae-In's reaction, he became even more convinced of his thoughts. Both of them were S-rank hunters, and the entertainment games were too slow for them. Sung Jin Woo looked at Cha Hae-In affectionately and said, "Let me take you somewhere even more fun." In the vibrant sunset sky, a dark shadow pierced through the clouds straight up. Then 2 giant figures with wings on their backs appeared, resembling 2 human shadows. It was their first experience. The speed and intensity, along with the breathtaking scenery, made Cha Hae-In fascinated. Curiously, she asked Sung Jin Woo why he still wanted to go to the amusement park when they had such a wonderful place. Sung Jin Woo explained it was because of his father. He first appeared at that amusement park before disappearing into the dimensional gate. That's why he always wanted to go there at least once. Cha Hae-In relied on Sung Jin Woo. "I've always wanted to find an opportunity to thank you for always protecting me and bringing me here," she said. Sung Jin Woo said he wanted to show her something else when the sun went down. The warm sky transitioned into a deep blue, with countless sparkling stars appearing. The two sat on the soft grass mat, gazing up at the star-filled sky. It was the first time Cha Hae-In had seen such a beautiful sky. She looked at Sung Jin Woo with admiration and leaned her head on his shoulder. They leaned on each other, mesmerized by the sight. As a shooting star streaked across the sky, Sung Jin Woo mentioned that it was the largest dimensional gate in history, and even experts had no solution. The residents were forced to evacuate the area, and hunters from all over were converging to prepare for the scenario of the gate losing control. Meanwhile, an old man, recently awakened as a successful hunter, found himself reluctantly deployed to this dangerous location. Lost in his own thoughts, he was bumped into by someone going the opposite way, which angered him. He angrily asked the person to apologize, not realizing the seriousness of the situation. The main character, the old man, still unaware of the severity of the problem, was feeling proud after his recent advancement, no longer having to bow his head as he did before. But now, being underestimated by the giant man, he cursed in frustration. In an instant, the giant man's mouth opened wide, swallowing the old man's head. Before the horrified onlookers, he revealed a sinister grin. Standing in place, he emitted a terrifying wave of power, causing everything within dozens of meters to shatter. Hunters were sent flying and crashing into buildings, while vehicles were tossed into the air, falling onto him. As the smoke cleared, his ominous figure appeared. He laughed triumphantly, announcing, "Listen, you pathetic humans. Your moment of death has arrived. My claws will tear everything apart. I am the sovereign of countless emperor beasts, Baku. You are about to become prey in the forest." Meanwhile, Sung Jin Woo and Cha Hae-In were still happy together, unaware of the impending danger. Cha Hae-In mentioned there was a hotel nearby with a delicious breakfast, suggesting they go clean up and eat something. Sung Jin Woo agreed to run to the parking lot in 5 minutes, although his 5 minutes would likely cover a considerable distance. Yet he still said, "Wait for me nearby." Riding on Kaiser, they set off. Meanwhile, President Yoo Jin-chul was in a panic, already losing his hair just days into his new position due to the magnitude of the crisis. The time until the dungeon became uncontrollable was only a few days away, and the appearance of the dimensional gate had added to his headache. Now, with monsters rampaging on their land, killing numerous hunters, and with no contact from Sung Jin Woo, he feared he might have to enter the battle himself. Just then, his subordinates reported that a hunter was fighting the monster at the location where the emperor beast Baku was wreaking havoc, but it wasn't Sung Jin Woo. It was the German hunter Renard, who happened to be nearby. Renard broke out in a cold sweat. The monster was too powerful. If he fought it, he would likely die right there. Initially, he had wanted to meet Sung Jin Woo, but now he was caught up in this situation. He was strong, but he couldn't just ignore it. Perhaps this was fate's way of mocking him, keeping him here to take care of the monster himself. As he muttered to himself, Thomas pushed him back, depriving him of the chance to enter the fray. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Sung Jin Woo and Cha Hae-In were still happily together when they received a call from President Yoo Jin-chul, his voice frantic. He reported that a monstrous creature had appeared in the city center, causing horrific devastation. Sung Jin Woo asked how many monsters there were, and the president replied, "Just one." This surprised Sung Jin Woo greatly. With all the top hunters gathered to deal with the impending crisis of the out-of-control dimensional gate, the sudden appearance of a monster threatening to wreak havoc left everyone baffled. President Yoo Jin-chul explained that the creature's appearance was so swift that it had already wiped out all the hunters who had confronted it. Currently, Thomas was facing it alone. Sung Jin Woo felt something was amiss. He had placed tracking devices on everyone, instructing them to report any anomalies immediately, just like the ones he used to protect. However, despite the ongoing battle and the threat posed by the monstrous creature, he received no signals. He activated his passive shadow soldier skill to observe, but all he saw was a chaotic mess, as if something was causing interference. Even several shadow soldiers lost contact. The enemy was formidable, and national-level hunters were needed to confront it. Coupled with the signal interference, Sung Jin Woo had a bad feeling about this. He asked the president if the monster had a shadow. He needed to confirm if it had a shadow, as in the darkness, an invisible entity could be hiding, possibly even larger than the visible one. On the battlefield, Thomas shouted for everyone not to hesitate and quickly evacuated the civilians to safety. Renard asked if he needed help, but Thomas told him to stand aside. He knew this was the strongest opponent he had ever faced, and it would take everything he had to defeat it. Facing this high-level monster, he couldn't afford to be complacent. He activated his Emperor's golden body skill, swiftly swinging his claws. However, his claws slid off the monster's body, and Thomas punched it, but it retaliated with a kick. They exchanged blows fiercely. Meanwhile, Hunter Choi rushed to the scene upon receiving the distress call. When he inquired about the situation, his subordinates confidently informed him that National Hunter Thomas was there, along with the leadership of the Assassination Guild and the Baku Guild. They were sure they would soon resolve the situation. However, Choi Jong-in didn't share their optimism. The enemy was so powerful that even Thomas couldn't guarantee victory. Facing such a formidable foe, the sense of impending doom was overwhelming, unlike anything they had ever encountered, even on Jeju Island. In the intense battle, buildings trembled violently as Thomas delivered a powerful blow, slamming the Emperor Baku into the ground. However, the monster quickly rebounded, crashing into Thomas's abdomen. Thomas struggled to stand firm, clinging tightly to the Emperor Baku and striking the ground with all his might, hoping to inflict some pain. But to his surprise, the monster seemed unfazed, delivering a kick that sent him flying several meters away. Feeling his current strength inadequate, Thomas resorted to his last resort, enhancing his power. At that moment, the rescue team arrived, astonished to see the monstrous creature having defeated numerous top hunters and transformed Thomas into a giant. Thomas' subordinates cheered, thinking victory was imminent. However, Thomas appeared helpless. They were too inexperienced, unaware of the terrifying strength of the monster before them. His transformation was his final gambit. Baekhyun also realized that the enemy was not ordinary. He couldn't hold his ground against it. He, too, was forced to activate his transformation skill. However, before he could complete his transformation, Emperor Baku stood before him, staring intently with glowing eyes. Baekhyun dared not meet his gaze. He felt like a cub facing a matured wolf. His instincts warned him not to become prey, but Emperor Baku paid no heed, advancing straight toward him. Meanwhile, Thomas, having augmented his strength, raised his hand, causing objects to levitate around him, then launched them towards Thomas. He used his hands to fend off the incoming vehicles, then employed a suction force technique to pull Emperor Baku towards him. As the monarch approached, Thomas shifted the pile of debris off himself, then lifted both hands and slammed them forcefully onto the ground, relentlessly pummeling Emperor Baku. Just when Thomas thought he had gained the upper hand, Emperor Baku caught his fist as he rose, his fur turning white and his face assuming a sinister expression. He taunted Thomas, claiming to be a mere puppet of the shattered light, yet possessing such immense power. But it was all futile. The outcome would be the same as that of other puppets. It was then that Thomas realized that the mastermind behind Christopher's murder was none other than them. After transforming, Emperor Baku's power surged, launching continuous assaults that Thomas struggled to withstand. Emperor Baku quickly detected another shadow within Thomas's darkness, promptly dragging it out and crushing it. Thomas took advantage of the moment when Emperor Baku wasn't paying attention and leaped behind him, tightening his grip around his neck and slamming his head onto the ground. But the Emperor's neck stretched like rubber, quickly returning to its original position. He then grabbed Thomas's head and forcefully threw it to the ground before baring his fangs, preparing to devour him. At that moment, a beam of blue light shot into the emperor's face, pushing him back several meters. When he turned back, he saw a hunter standing beside Thomas. Despite his fear, Renard stepped forward to protect Thomas in that critical moment. It underscored how fragile human beings were compared to the towering figure of the emperor, who had effortlessly defeated hundreds of top hunters, including Thomas. As Thomas was about to be swallowed whole, Renard leaped out to shield him. Though trembling with fear at the mere sight of the monster, Renard, as a hunter, preferred a dignified death to a life of cowardice. Even if it was his last day alive, he believed in the righteousness of his choice. He inflicted countless scars on himself in the hope of causing the monster pain, but as death loomed nearer, he was overcome with fear, unable to use his skills, only standing there awaiting his demise. Just as the giant jaws of Emperor Baku were about to consume him, Kaiser suddenly appeared, sinking its teeth into the emperor and pushing him back several meters. However, the emperor retaliated with his claws, tearing Kaiser apart, causing it to vanish into thin air. Sung Jin Woo emerged from the dissipating darkness, stretching his long legs to deliver a powerful kick to Emperor Baku's head, slamming him forcefully onto the ground. Renard couldn't believe his eyes at Sung Jin Woo's sudden appearance. Sung Jin Woo earnestly instructed him, "Please take Thomas to safety." Emperor Baku stood up from the rubble. Initially skeptical of Kochon's words, he now saw Sung Jin Woo's true strength, wielding the power of the Shadow Emperor, a human possessing such terrifying power. Surely the designers had found a way and had long been in collaboration with the Shadow Emperor. He looked at Sung Jin Woo with a fierce gaze, determined to kill him to prevent future repercussions. Sung Jin Woo sensed the emperor's intense desire to kill him, along with other powerful energies emanating from him. Suddenly, a dark mass crawled on the ground, slowly transforming into a slender girl. That was the Plague Emperor. And there was also the Frost Emperor, the one who killed the guild leader Gong Ba. Terrifying energies surrounded Sung Jin Woo as the Plague Emperor's forces closed in on him like a swarm of bees. In response, Sung Jin Woo unleashed a surge of power, causing the space to shimmer with intense light, reaching even the azure sky. Facing the impending onslaught, Sung Jin Woo summoned his shadows. Iris confronted the Frost Emperor, Iron battled the Shadow Emperor, and Burr faced the Plague Emperor. Emperor Baku was slightly surprised. New shadow soldiers, mocked the Frost Emperor, inhaling a deep breath before exhaling a massive blast of ice towards Sung Jin Woo. Sung Jin Woo quickly raised his hand to block, causing the shadows to freeze. Seeing them with disdain, the Plague Emperor sneered, "You think these lowly creatures can stand against us? It's laughable." Sung Jin Woo shattered the ice with his hand, and then wielded Kami's enraged sword, pointing it at them. "Today is the day of your demise," he declared. The threat of being challenged by a human enraged Emperor Baku, who summoned his legion of giant ice golems, while the Plague Emperor mobilized her undead army. Though inferior in combat, they were persistent, knowing they wouldn't disappear as long as their master survived. In addition, a massive ice giant leaped towards Sung Jin Woo, wielding Kami's blade to deliver a 1,500 damage strike to him, but was quickly surrounded by other ice giants. Sung Jin Woo continued to gather his strength, then lunged straight through the giant's body, heading directly towards Emperor Bangjia. This action startled him, as he was only skilled in long-range combat and was not prepared for close combat with Sung Jin Woo. However, Emperor Baku did not allow Sung Jin Woo to execute his plan. He charged forward, and the two engaged in an incredibly fast-paced battle. Emperor Baku mocked Sung Jin Woo, taunting him, "Do you think wielding that broken piece of iron can harm me?" But immediately he was kicked in the rear end. Facing Sung Jin Woo, who possessed Kami's enraged sword, was like cutting through butter, especially when dealing with mere flesh and blood. It was like chopping vegetables. There was no resistance. Before he could react, Emperor Baku was attacked by another giant creature. Emperor Dikben flew in the sky, surrounded by 5 large green beasts guarding her. Emperor Baku's arm had also recovered. Sung Jin Woo sighed heavily. Dealing with 3 emperors and their numerous soldiers was proving to be quite challenging. Suddenly, there was a clattering sound as Be broke free from the ice that bound her. She rushed towards the emperors, cursing them, showing her fearless defiance. Emperor Bangja and Emperor Baku were astonished to see a mere shadow break free from the ice and also serve as a commander. How could a human have such loyal followers? This was quite shocking compared to the situation with the other 2 emperors. Emperor Dikben, infuriated by Be's disobedience and refusal to acknowledge her as her mother, raised her wing to strike her. But Be shattered the wing with a kick, still hurling insults at her. This display of defiance caused Emperor Dikben's rage to boil over. She intended to punish Be severely for her insolence. But instead, Be knelt before Sung Jin Woo with utmost respect, simultaneously taunting their enemies. Despite facing such overwhelming power, Sung Jin Woo remained unyielding, earning the reverence of his followers like a true king. The admiration of Be and her undead soldiers broke the moment of reunion for the emperors, symbolizing the destruction of their unity. Sung Jin Woo remained unfazed, swiftly using his strength to tear apart his opponents before they could react. However, in the midst of the chaos, a colossal hand reached out to grab Be, while another hand delivered a direct punch to Sung Jin Woo's face, sending him flying several dozen meters and crashing into the debris below. As Sung Jin Woo struggled to his feet, he looked up to see a barrage of sharp ice shards descending upon him, creating a terrifying hailstorm. Without hesitation, Sung Jin Woo quickly swung his dagger, deflecting the incoming shards with precision. From above, the Ice Emperor chuckled mockingly at Sung Jin Woo's attempt to resist their combined assault. Despite being a seemingly ordinary person, Sung Jin Woo dared to challenge the might of the 3 emperors. Curious to see how long Sung Jin Woo could endure, the Ice Emperor watched intently. However, before Sung Jin Woo could respond, a sudden reversal occurred. A dagger pierced through the Ice Emperor from an unexpected angle, causing him to gasp in surprise and pain. Sung Jin Woo's expression remained stoic as he calmly observed the Ice Emperor's reaction. Despite the unexpected turn of events, the Ice Emperor's anger only intensified. He couldn't comprehend how an ordinary person like Sung Jin Woo dared to defy him. Sung Jin Woo couldn't hide his surprise. He had definitely struck the Ice Emperor's heart. So why was there no injury? Was the heart not his weakness? As he pondered this, he turned his attention towards the Ice Emperor Bangja, unleashing a barrage of weapons upon him. Despite the onslaught, the Ice Emperor remained unscathed, taking advantage of Sung Jin Woo's distraction. Meanwhile, the Frost Emperor Baku emerged behind Sung Jin Woo and swiftly struck him in the back with a curved dagger, causing blood to spurt from his mouth. Be, wanting to help Sung Jin Woo, was stopped by the appearance of the Plague Emperor Dikben. Dikben declared herself the Queen of the Insects and demanded that Be submit to her. However, Be refused to acknowledge Dikben as her mother, continuing to resist and cry out in desperation. As the situation grew more dire, the Shadow Soldiers began to take action. Urging Chris to free the king from the ice, they launched an attack to break him free from the Frost Emperor's hold. Seeing the situation deteriorating, the elite Shadow Soldiers began to take action. Following Chris, Iris, Irange, and Tuck also managed to break free from their restraints and join the battle. Observing Sung Jin Woo's severe injuries, the Ice Emperor Bangja smirked, expressing his condolences over Sung Jin Woo's plight, believing his demise to be imminent. However, Sung Jin Woo responded with a hearty laugh, incredulous at Bangja's assumption. He pointed out that his wounds were swiftly healing, emphasizing the grand scale of the battle between the emperors and himself, the Shadow Monarch. Sung Jin Woo's resilience drew the attention of the world as the clash between the three emperors and the Shadow Monarch became a spectacle of epic proportions. Even Renard, known for his stoicism, was astonished, likening the battle to a science fiction movie. Baku, though aware of Sung Jin Woo's continuous growth as a hunter, found his sudden surge in power surprising. After breaking free from the ice's control, the shadow soldiers swiftly engaged in combat, disrupting and encircling the emperors. Meanwhile, Burr found herself in a state of chaos, attempting to resist the plague Emperor Dikben by severing her finger, only to witness it regenerate quickly. Seeing Burr's refusal to acknowledge her, Dikben became enraged, seeking to kill her with the assistance of the shadow soldiers. With the aid of the shadow soldiers, Sung Jin Woo finally had the opportunity to confront the plague Emperor Dikben. He swung his greatsword, delivering a powerful blow to her face. On the rooftop of a building near the battlefield, Lim Tae-gyu surveyed the battlefield. Initially, he had planned to conceal himself here and secretly ambush the emperors. However, witnessing the battle, he felt that such tactics seemed unnecessary. 30 minutes earlier, Lim Tae-gyu had deployed his elite sniper teams throughout the area. With just a signal from him, his teammates would simultaneously provide long-range support against the enemy. While shooting could deliver fatal blows to the opponents, it would also compromise their positions. Once detected by Emperor Baku, the chances of survival for those exposed would undoubtedly diminish. When he decided to fire, someone tapped him on the shoulder, suggesting he move to a cooler spot. Startled, Lim Tae-gyu immediately aimed his bow towards the person, only to realize it was no ordinary individual. Meanwhile, the other hunters regrouped to eliminate the monsters, avoiding direct engagement in the battle. They understood that intervening would only turn them into sacrificial pawns. There was no chance of inflicting even the slightest harm on the enemy. All they could do was stand by and hope for the battle to end soon. Sung Jin Woo leaped onto the body of Emperor Dikben, who released a greenish poison gas all over himself. The detection system automatically activated passive rescue measures upon sensing the poison, but to no avail against Sung Jin Woo. Despite being the master of countless toxins, Dikben's poison was useless against him. As Dikben opened her jaws to tear him apart, Sung Jin Woo turned around and used his supreme power to immobilize her on the spot. He then swiftly moved in front of her, wielding his chaotic blade. Countless sword blades swept across her body before dissipating. In her final moments, Dikben saw a dazzling darkness. Despite being born from darkness, she longed to immerse herself in it again. This darkness was rich with countless hues, a realm she yearned for. The system announced the demise of one of the 9 kings. Emperor Banja was astonished. He couldn't fully harness the power of Emperor Bontoy. The mighty rulers who once dominated the world were about to bring terror upon them once again. Why not? He had not fully awakened as the true king of darkness. The genuine darkness of Emperor Bontoy would not be so weak. As an incomplete king, how could he defeat the true emperor? Emperor Banja tightened his grip on Burr's neck, causing him to roar in agony. Sung Jin Woo sensed something was amiss. His connection with Burr was weakening, and the shadow soldiers he dispatched seemed to have vanished, perhaps like Thomas. He immediately tried to dismiss Burr's summoned shadows, but the system indicated it couldn't summon the target, signaling he didn't care about anything else. He rushed straight to Burr. Seeing this, King Baku hastily retreated. Sung Jin Woo managed to save Burr, prompting Emperor Banja to mock Sung Jin Woo's weak shadow skills. You humans are too confident in your mysterious abilities. Even though you can control these puppets with your magic, once the connection is severed, they become useless, he taunted. Taking a deep breath, Emperor Banja conjured massive ice spikes around them, and then pulled out a trident. Suddenly, the long-range mage became a close-range combatant. Although the trident's attack range was considerable and extremely flexible, one of its prongs pierced Sung Jin Woo's shoulder, sending him flying. Despite the impact, Sung Jin Woo unexpectedly disappeared from his original position. As Emperor Banja turned his attention to Sung Jin Woo's new location, he saw Sung Jin Woo charging at him with a short sword. Dodging quickly, he used the trident to strike Sung Jin Woo, sending him flying back. After retreating a few meters, Sung Jin Woo regained his composure, breathing heavily. In this state, Emperor Bongtoy was much stronger, but his magic power was rapidly depleting. He needed to deal with Sung Jin Woo before time ran out. Transforming, he rushed towards Sung Jin Woo, continuously attacking him with countless ice spikes. Despite being close-range mages, Sung Jin Woo was faster. He could perceive every movement, breath, and muscle twitch. The flow of Emperor Banja's magic was within his sight. He just needed to be a bit faster to gain the upper hand. Recognizing the speed disadvantage, Sung Jin Woo observed Emperor Banja wielding his weapon and creating a magical attack around him. However, Sung Jin Woo moved swiftly, appearing behind him. He thought he had seized an opportunity, but to his surprise, Emperor Banja turned back, his eyes filled with a sinister glare. Unexpectedly, King Baku appeared and launched a sudden attack. Caught off guard, Sung Jin Woo froze in front of everyone's astonished gaze. With sharp claws, King Baku pierced Sung Jin Woo's body, inflicting a severe wound that incapacitated him. As Sung Jin Woo seemed vulnerable within the encirclement of the three kings, he was attacked from behind by Emperor Baku, who used a technique to pierce his heart. Emperor Banja laughed scornfully at Sung Jin Woo. "You're not so skilled after all. Can you still recover like earlier? Not anymore, right? No matter how powerful you are, you're just an incomplete king. It ends here," he jeered. "If that's the case, you won't witness the sight of our army when they arrive. At that time, your corpses will pile up, rivers of blood will flow, and the nation that nurtured you will be in chaos. We will make everyone here suffer endlessly, living without life, dying without end. Hate me in your death. I'll be delighted," he continued, as Sung Jin Woo found himself unable to reverse the situation through his window. His condition was dire, and a passive skill that hadn't been unlocked was activated. The system notified the player of a black heart, meeting all the conditions of the passive skill. Unaware, after the conditions were met, Sung Jin Woo was activated. After a brilliant flash of light, Sung Jin Woo opened his eyes from his hospital bed, clutching his chest and breathing heavily. He vividly remembered being killed by 2 emperors, yet he was still alive, despite his heart being destroyed. What was happening? He glanced around the hospital room, feeling a sense of déjà vu. The door opened, and 2 association hunters entered. Sung Jin Woo reflexively addressed the man as Chairman Yu Jin Chul, hastily asking him what had happened and how he was still alive, and what had become of the kings. Yu Jin Chul was taken aback by the question. He replied slowly, clarifying that he wasn't the chairman but the supervising manager. He wanted to inquire about the stone statues that could move. Sung Jin Woo was puzzled by how he knew Yu Jin Chul's name when they hadn't met before. As Sung Jin Woo pondered, he realized he was in a familiar room, yet the moving stone statues alongside Supervisor Yu Jin Chul seemed strange. Was this a time loop? Everything around him remained unchanged, except for his appearance, skill level, and equipment from the other world. Even his enraged Kamish short sword was intact. However, the shadow soldiers had disappeared, and his sister's visit didn't recognize him. He urged her to leave quickly and return to school. Then he noticed Han Song-li standing at the door, telling her not to skip school to become a hunter. Han Song-li asked her brother how he knew their name, leaving Sung Jin Woo bewildered. Leaving the hospital, Sung Jin Woo felt incredulous. Could he truly be time-traveling? He arrived at the Hunter Association building, skillfully obtained an S-rank hunter license and went straight to the chairman's office, a familiar routine, leaving the bewildered magic power inspector in the elevator. There he met an old B-rank hunter acquaintance, a cold-blooded swindler, contemplating how to deceive the association. Sung Jin Woo coldly smirked, accusing him of hiding his stealth skills. The man held him, puzzled by Sung Jin Woo's knowledge of his identity and shocked to find his weapons missing, stolen by Sung Jin Woo. Sung Jin Woo threatened with a terrifying tone, warning him that if any innocent hunter were harmed, he would die. This was his only warning. The man recoiled, baffled by this stranger who knew so much about him. Sung Jin Woo opened the door to the chairman's office and saw the familiar face, feeling like he was back home. Sung Jin Woo wasted no time and immediately demanded to return to the condition, back to the rules, including summoning creature skills. If the chairman agreed, he would eliminate all ants on Jeju Island. The chairman was furious, thinking this newly ramped S-rank hunter was too arrogant. Jeju Island wasn't something an S-rank hunter could handle. However, he quickly had to swallow his words as he felt a horrifying power emanating from Sung Jin Woo. This power surpassed even national-level hunters. Who was this kid? Sung Jin Woo experienced the familiar events once more. Wang Dong-suk's Lizard Guild, the assassination attempt by the con artist, the monsters at the Red Gate, Tuk's giant army destroying Jeju Island, and finally Bur's submission. Reflecting on everything he had been through, Sung Jin Woo sighed heavily and shouted, "Enough. I know it's all an illusion. Show yourself." The surroundings turned pitch black, with countless system notifications appearing, asking if he wanted to restart the world. They swirled around him, and from the darkness emerged Emperor Bontoy, emanating a deathly aura. He told Sung Jin Woo that as long as he wished, he could live forever in this world. His dreams would never be shattered. Sung Jin Woo coldly stared back, realizing he was trapped in the illusion created by Emperor Bontoy. Emperor Bontoy explained that Sung Jin Woo had created the illusion himself, driven by his desires to correct past mistakes. He only used his power to assist Sung Jin Woo. The surroundings transformed into a realm of darkness as Emperor Bontoy continued, asserting his dominance over death itself. Sung Jin Woo questioned why him. "Let me tell you about our beginning and end, as well as your beginning," said Emperor Bontoy. A flash of light pierced Sung Jin Woo's mind. In the real world, he was frozen by Emperor Bangjia and Emperor Baku. They had won this battle. Thomas had just awakened and no longer sensed Sung Jin Woo's presence. He asked Renard what had happened, but Renard stuttered, unsure of what to say. Bakuho was stunned, declaring that Sung Jin Woo was dead. Now, who could save the world? Lim Taegu regretted listening to the sudden appearance of the mysterious figure. Even if they had attacked fiercely, they could have helped Sung Jin Woo. Now that he was dead, conserving strength was futile. He ordered everyone to prepare for battle and focus their power on one emperor. But at that moment, they all felt a terrifying darkness emanating from Sung Jin Woo's body. The heart of the emperor within him beat strongly, leaving the emperors horrified and unable to let this happen. They couldn't afford it. They didn't have time to think as they rushed towards Sung Jin Woo, but were thrown back by a kick, flying tens of meters backward. Standing before Sung Jin Woo was a cold man who told the emperors that from now on, no one could touch this child. Long ago, in a world where light and darkness coexisted, the supreme darkness used fragments of light to create divine messengers, while using fragments of darkness to create 8 dark emperors. He ordered the 8 dark emperors to destroy the world, then ordered the divine messengers to protect it. The two factions engaged in endless war. The brightest fragment of light was the most radiant, but ultimately didn't want war. He questioned the supreme darkness, wondering if he heard the cries of the warriors sacrificing themselves for him. Did he not want to help them? The supreme darkness remained silent. It was then that Sung Jin Woo understood that for the supreme darkness, the battle between him and the emperors was just entertainment. The supreme darkness didn't want the war to end. In his realm, death reigned supreme.